Okay, let's talk about something that's, well, it's deeply personal, it's incredibly important, and honestly, it's a topic that's way too often just shrouded in silence. We're gonna get into the truth about sex and intimacy after 60.
So let's just ask the big question right out of the gate. Is a fulfilling sex life something that just goes away? It's a real fear for a lot of people, one that's fed by cultural messages we've heard our whole lives. But is that what really happens? Let's find out.
Now, before we get into the science and the strategies for keeping things healthy and vibrant, we have to deal with the biggest hurdle first, and that's the taboo itself. Why is this so hard for us to talk about openly?
I mean, you can almost feel that unspoken tension, can't you? This hesitation to talk about sexuality in older adults isn't just a little awkward, it's genuinely harmful. It spins up this whole cycle of ignorance and prejudice that leaves people feeling completely alone and misinformed. And all that ignorance, it's the perfect breeding ground for some really persistent myths. So let's just rip the Band-Aid off, shall we? No, women do not automatically lose all sexual desire after menopause. No, it's not a given that older men can't get an erection. And this idea that older people just aren't interested or that it's somehow undignified, that is just plain wrong. So, with those myths hopefully busted, let's talk about what's really going on. Because yes, your body is changing, but it is so crucial to frame this as a natural process of change, not some story of decline. Okay, so take a look at this. It basically breaks down how the sexual response cycle can evolve. The key thing to see here isn't that things just stop, but that the timing and the intensity can shift. For example, excitement might take a little longer to build, and an orgasm might feel a bit different. The experience changes, but it absolutely does not disappear.
So, what's driving these changes? Well, it really comes down to two different hormonal journeys. For women, you have menopause, which is a pretty distinct event where estrogen production winds down. For men, what's sometimes called andropause is a much slower, more gradual decline in testosterone. They're very different paths, but they're both totally normal parts of aging.
Understanding that these changes are happening is really the first step. The next, and honestly the most empowering step, is learning how you can actively manage this journey.
For women going through menopause, the physical symptoms can be, well, a lot. We're talking about everything from hot flashes and feeling totally wiped out to vaginal dryness, which can directly affect sex by making it uncomfortable or even painful.
And it's so much more than just physical. Those hormonal shifts can have a huge impact on your emotions and even your thinking. Things like moodiness, anxiety, even trouble with memory can pop up, adding a whole other layer of complexity to how a woman is feeling in her own body. But here's the really good news. There are so many ways to manage these symptoms. The most important thing is knowing you have options. Talking to your doctor about something like hormone replacement therapy, or HRT, is a big one. But so are things like changes to your diet and exercise, stress management, and practical solutions like using vaginal moisturizers.
Now, for men, the most talked about change is usually erectile dysfunction, or ED. It's pretty straightforward, the inability to get or keep interaction that's firm enough for sex. And listen, it has a lot of potential causes, but the approval of Viagra back in 1998 was a watershed moment. It proved that millions of men were not only dealing with this, but were actively looking for help. So, we've talked a lot about the body, but the physical stuff is only one piece of the puzzle. Let's look at the psychological and social barriers, because they can be just as challenging, if not more so.
So, beyond our own bodies, there's a simple, practical reality that this number shows so clearly. The demographic shift as we age means that for older women, just finding a partner can become a real challenge. I mean, by age 85, it's just 7 men for every 10 women. That's a huge social barrier to intimacy right there. On top of that, you have these persistent medical misconceptions that create a lot of fear. People start to worry that sex is impossible after certain surgeries, or that it's just too dangerous for their heart. But good, straightforward education can correct these fears and really reopen the door to intimacy. And then, of course, there's the internal monologue. In a culture that is obsessed with youth, worrying about wrinkles, gray hair, and a body that's changed can be a massive psychological hurdle. You add in the fear of performance and the sting of ageism, and you've got this potent cocktail that can absolutely dampen anyone's sexual desire and function. So when you consider all of these changes, the physical, the social, the psychological, Maybe the most important step forward is to just broaden our whole understanding of what sexuality even is.
I really love this quote because it just gets right to the heart of it. Sexuality isn't just about a physical act. It's so much bigger. It's about love, warmth, caring, and sharing. It's a core part of who we are, not just something we do.
And this is just so crucial. What brings sexual satisfaction can have a totally different meaning as we age. For many people, the focus just shifts. Intimacy becomes more about holding, caressing, and that deep connection you get from sharing loving words and touches. Those things can become just as meaningful as intercourse, or even more so.
So the truth isn't that sex is over after 60. The truth is that our definition of it can expand. It changes, it evolves, and it can stay a vital, beautiful part of life. And that really leaves us with one final question to think about. How can we all, no matter our age, start having a more open and honest conversation about intimacy?